Story 1.
The warehouse.
I took the overnight security job because I needed the quiet. After this, I don't think I'll ever want quiet again. I'd been working at the distribution warehouse for about 2 weeks. It sits out past the edge of town, the kind of building that's just a gray box the size of a few football fields, surrounded by empty lot and a chain fence with a gate that squeals when the wind pushes it. During the day, there are forklifts and trucks, and maybe 60 people moving around inside. At night, there's one person. That night, for the first time, that person was me. My trainer had ridden along with me for the first 2 weeks, walking me through the rounds, showing me the camera wall in the security office, teaching me how to read the door panel. The door panel is just a grid of little lights, one for every exterior and interior door. Green means closed and sealed. When my trainer signed off and went home, he shook my hand and told me the most boring job in the world was now mine. I believed him. My shift ran from 10 at night to 6 in the morning. The first few hours were nothing. I did a walk of the floor. I sat in the office. I watched a show on my phone with one eye on the cameras. The warehouse at night has a sound to it, a kind of low breathing, the heating units cycling on and off, the metal roof ticking as it cools, the hum of the freezer section at the far end. You learn the rhythm of it fast, and you stop hearing it. So when something doesn't fit the rhythm, you notice. Around 1 in the morning, I noticed one of the lights on the door panel had gone amber, section C. An interior roll door deep in the back of the building, in a part of the warehouse that had been sealed off for inventory and wasn't supposed to have anyone in it at all. I told myself the sensor was just old. Half the building was held together with tape and good intentions, and my trainer had even mentioned that a couple of the older sensors liked to flicker. So I made a note, finished my episode, and went to do my 2 o'clock walk. When I got to section C, the roll door was closed. Sealed, like the panel should have said. I almost turned around. But through the small wire glass window in the door, I could see that the lights inside were on. Not the dim safety lights that stay on all night. The full overhead work lights, the bright ones you have to switch on at a wall panel by hand. I want to be honest about something. I wasn't scared yet. I was annoyed. I figured a day shift guy had left them burning, and the panel was wrong, and I went back to the office to check the cameras for section C before I bothered going in. I pulled up the feed and rewound it, and this is the part I keep coming back to. I scrubbed the footage backward, past the start of my shift, past 10 o'clock, and somewhere around 9:40, I watched a figure walk across the corner of the section C camera and step out of frame into one of the spots the camera doesn't cover. There are a few of those back there, dead zones, behind the tall racking where the shelves block the lens. The figure went into one of them, unhurried, like a person who already knew exactly where the blind spots were, and the footage just kept rolling, empty for hours. Nobody walked back out. That meant whoever it was had been inside that sealed section since before I ever clocked in. They had been in there the entire time I was sitting 40 yards away watching cartoons. I sat very still and watched the live feed of section C, the part of it I could see. For a long moment, nothing moved, and I started to talk myself back down, a trick of the old recording. A day worker I'd missed. Then, near the bottom edge of the frame, a shadow stretched along the floor between 2 racks and slid out of view, and I understood that whoever it was had simply walked from one dead zone to another, staying in the gaps, never once crossing the part of the room the camera could see. I switched to the next camera, the one covering the aisle that fed into section C, hoping to catch them in the open. The aisle was empty, but while I was staring at it, the radio handset on the desk, the open channel that just carries sound from the warehouse floor, gave a soft crackle, and then I heard it. The long dragging scrape of something heavy being pulled across concrete, a pallet or a crate sliding, then a pause, then it again, closer to the aisle. They were moving something toward the door I was watching. I'd like to tell you I did something brave. I didn't, and I'm glad. The training is clear about this, and the training is the only reason I'm fine. You do not engage. You retreat to the office, you lock it, and you call it in. So that's what I did. I locked the office door. I killed the office lights, so the room behind the glass went dark, and I called the police. Then I called my supervisor. While I was on hold with the non-emergency line, I kept my eyes on the door panel, and a new light blinked over to amber. The rear loading door, all the way on the other side of the building from Section C. Whoever was back there could not have crossed the open floor to reach it without passing 3 cameras, and they hadn't. And next to that amber light, on the little card reader log that scrolls across the bottom of the screen, a name came up. The badge that had just been scanned at that rear door. It belonged to the previous overnight guard, the one whose shifts I had taken over. The one who, as far as I knew, had quit 3 weeks earlier. So either there were 2 people in my building, or one person was moving through it in ways I couldn't track, using a badge that shouldn't have worked anymore. I sat in the dark office with the phone against my ear and listened to the building breathe and tried not to listen for anything underneath it. The police came faster than I expected. They walked the whole building with me trailing behind them. Section C was empty. The work lights were on, like I'd said, and back in the far corner, in one of the camera-dead zones, they found where someone had been living. Flattened cardboard laid out like a mattress, with a folded moving blanket on top of it. A camp lantern, still faintly warm. Food wrappers, a lot of them, the kind of pile that takes more than one night to make. A phone charger plugged into an outlet, meant for a pallet jack. A 2-liter bottle, half full, standing next to the cardboard like a nightstand. Nobody was there. The rear loading door was the only way out that didn't pass a camera, and it had been opened from the inside. The thing they never explained, the thing I asked my supervisor about and never got a real answer to, was the badge. When a guard quits, the badge is supposed to be collected and deactivated that day. His never was. It had been live in the system the entire time I'd been working there, and it had been scanned from inside the building on the first night I was ever truly alone. I asked to move to days. They let me. I never found out how long he'd been living in there before that night, or whether the badge in the system was even still his. Story 2. The calls I used to work the overnight desk for a clinic that took appointments around the clock. People always ask why a clinic needs someone answering phones at 3 in the morning, and the answer is that pain doesn't keep office hours. I sat at the front desk on the ground floor of an 8-story office building, and at night I was the only living person in it. The other floors emptied out by 7 in the evening. By midnight, the building was mine. The clinic rented the ground floor and a slice of the second. Everything above that was other companies, and one of those companies on the 4th floor had cleared out and moved a few months before. Their floor was dark and empty and waiting for a new tenant, a whole floor of bare carpet and dangling network cables and nothing else. The internal phone system was old. Every desk in the building had an extension, and you could dial floor to floor without going through an outside line. The display on my phone would show the extension that was calling. I want you to understand that part because it matters. The first call came a little after 1 in the morning. My phone rang with the soft internal tone, not the louder outside ring, and the display showed an extension on the 4th floor. The empty floor. I answered the way I always did, with the clinic's name. There was breathing, slow, even unhurried. Then the line went dead. I told myself the system was glitching. It was genuinely true that the old switchboard sometimes routed calls strangely, and I'd been told as much when I was hired. A ghost extension, an old voicemail loop, a crosswire somewhere in a closet. I wrote it down and moved on, and for about 20 minutes, I almost believed it. Then it rang again. 4th floor, a different extension this time. Breathing, then nothing. I hung up and sat there with my hand still on the receiver. And that was when I started to feel the building differently. I'd always thought of the floors above me as just dark and empty. Now they felt occupied, like the difference between a house where nobody's home and a house where someone is standing in a room with the lights off. Over the next hour, the internal calls kept coming, and the extensions kept changing, and they were not random. The fourth floor, then a few minutes later, the third, then the second. The numbers were walking down the building toward me, one floor at a time, and each time I picked up there was the same patient breathing on the other end, a little closer each time, the way a voice gets closer when someone is coming down a staircase toward you. That was when I stopped telling myself it was the wiring, because I could hear it now too, not just on the phone. Footsteps above me, the flat, soft sound of shoes on commercial carpet, crossing back and forth. The ceiling of the reception area is just a grid of acoustic tiles, and I sat there and tracked the footsteps moving across them. And then I heard the elevator, the mechanical hum and the clunk of the car settling, even though the little floor display by the elevator bank showed the car sitting still on the ground floor, right where I'd left it. Something was using the building, and it knew the building, and it was coming down through it toward the only lit room in the place. My first instinct was just to leave, get up, walk out the front, sit in my car, call it a night. But the only way out of the reception area was through the main lobby, the dark lobby, with the elevator bank and the stairwell doors, the exact space all those footsteps had been coming down toward. To leave the building, I would have had to walk straight into it, alone, and put my back to the stairwells to reach the front doors. I stood up halfway, looked through the frosted glass at that black open lobby, and sat back down. Whatever was in the building was between me and the only exit I trusted, and I was not going to walk into it to find out what it was. So I did the only other sensible thing I could think of. I locked the glass doors to the reception area. I turned off the lobby lights, so I wasn't lit up like a fish tank for anyone standing in the dark, and I called the building's after-hours security line. It rang and went to a recording, so I called the police, and I kept my voice low, and I crouched down behind the desk while it rang, watching the frosted glass and the dark lobby beyond it. While I was whispering my address to the dispatcher, my desk phone rang one more time, the internal tone. I rose up just enough to see the display. It was the ground floor lobby extension. The phone mounted on the wall just outside the locked glass doors. In the dark, maybe 20 feet behind me, I turned around. The reception area has a wall of frosted glass between it and the main lobby, the kind you can't see through clearly, but you can see shapes against. And there was a shape, a person, standing right up against the other side of the glass, near that ringing lobby phone. Not moving, just standing, close enough that I could see the rough outline of a head and shoulders darkening the frosted panel, and close enough that when the lobby phone stopped ringing, I heard, very faintly through the glass, the same slow breathing I'd been listening to on the line all night. I don't remember the next few minutes well. I remember the dispatcher telling me to stay on the line and stay down, and I remember the shape eventually pulling away from the glass without any hurry at all, and I remember the red and blue light finally washing across the lobby ceiling. The police found the building empty. Whoever it was had left through a stairwell fire exit that led out into the back alley. No alarm on that door, because the building's alarm system covered the ground floor entrances, and nobody had ever thought a person would be coming down from inside. The building manager called me the next day. He was the one who put it together. A few months earlier, the company on the fourth floor had let someone go. It hadn't gone well, and like so many of these, his building access had never been fully shut off, and he still knew the whole place. He knew every extension. He knew which floors were empty and which stairwells didn't have alarms, and exactly what time the building belonged to one person. I think about the calls, more than the shape behind the glass, because the calls weren't random and they weren't a glitch. He hadn't been dialing the wrong number. He'd been calling, floor by floor, working his way down, and listening for which extension I would pick up from. He'd been calling to find out where in the building I was. Story 3. The route. I cleaned offices at night for almost 2 years. It's good work if you like being alone, and I do. 1 building, 11 floors, my own cart, my own keys, my own time. I started at 11 at night and finished before the first early bird employees came in. I knew that building better than anyone who worked there in the daytime ever did, which sinks were slow, which doors stuck, which light in which stairwell buzzed. Every cleaner had a badge, a little plastic card on a lanyard that opened the doors and logged you in and out of every floor. It tracked you, basically. Management could pull up exactly which card opened which door at which minute. I never thought about it much. It was just the thing that beeped when I tapped it against the reader. One morning, near the end of my shift, I was looking at the floor log on the supervisor's terminal, the way I sometimes did to mark off which floors I'd finished. And there was an entry that didn't make sense. My badge, my card number, logged opening a door on the 6th floor at 3 in the morning. The thing was, I hadn't gone up to 6 until almost 4:30 that night. At 3, I'd been down on the 2nd floor, vacuuming the long hallway by the conference rooms. I know I was, because I remember it. I figured the system clock was off. Computers drift. I shrugged it off and went home and slept. But it kept happening. Over the next week or so, the log kept showing my badge opening doors at times and places I wasn't. And once I started watching for it, I started noticing other things, the way you do when a small wrong detail makes you look harder at everything around it. The elevator would already be sitting on my floor when I called it, doors open, waiting, as if someone had just stepped off. A trash can I'd emptied on 7 would have a single fresh coffee cup in it when I passed back through an hour later. Small things, the kind of things you can explain away one at a time and can't explain away altogether. The strangest entry in the log was a mechanical room down in the basement, a room I almost never had a reason to enter, getting opened with my card at odd hours in the dead middle of the night. I started paying attention to that room. The door, which was always supposed to be shut and latched, kept sitting just slightly ajar, and there was a smell coming from it now. Not chemicals, not the machine oil smell of the rest of the basement. Something warmer and more human. Something like a person who hadn't washed in a while. I started hearing things too. The little 2-way radio we carried for emergencies would catch a burst of sound from a floor I just cleaned and left empty. A scrape, a cough. Once what I'm fairly sure was someone clearing their throat, on a floor where I was supposed to be the only one with a key. I'd key the radio and say hello into it, feeling stupid, and the only answer would be that soft electronic hiss. I told the morning supervisor about the log entries. He told me I was probably just forgetting which floors I'd done, and when, that the night shift scrambles your sense of time, and that the clock on the access system was reliable. I knew I wasn't forgetting, but I also couldn't prove a thing, so I let it go, the way you do, and I went back to work and told myself to stop spooking myself in an empty building. There was one night, a few days before the end, that I've never been able to file away neatly. I was on the 4th floor around 2 in the morning, running the floor buffer, which is loud enough that it swallows every other sound in the room. When I shut it off, the silence came back all at once, the way it does, and in that first second of quiet, I heard a door latch click somewhere down the dark hallway behind me, the specific heavy click of one of the stairwell doors easing shut. I stood there with my hand still on the buffer and watched the hallway and waited for the motion sensor lights down that way to come on, the way they do when anything moves under them. They stayed off. Whatever had let that door close had done it slowly enough or low enough that the sensors never caught it. I finished that floor faster than I've ever finished a floor in my life. The night it ended, I made myself go down to the basement to deal with that mechanical room. I told myself I'd find a vent left open, or a contractor's mess, something with a name. The door was ajar again. I pushed it open with the handle of my mop and reached in and found the light switch, and the bare bulb came on, and I found where someone had been living. A thin camping mat in the corner, behind the big air handler, a flashlight, a grocery bag of food neatly folded shut, a jug of water, and sitting on top of an overturned milk crate, in plain sight, like it was being kept somewhere it could be found easily, a plastic access badge on a lanyard. It looked exactly like mine. He came out from behind the air handler fast, faster than something that size should move in a small room. I didn't get a good look at his face, and I didn't try to. I ran. I got to the lobby. I locked the elevator off with my key so it couldn't follow me up or down, and I called the police from behind the security desk, watching the stairwell door the whole time. By the time they arrived, he was gone, out through the mechanical tunnels that run the utilities between the buildings on that block. But they searched the room, and they found the thing that still keeps me up. In that mechanical room, next to the camping mat, was a stack of printed photographs. Grainy still images, the kind you'd grab off a hallway security camera and print at a drugstore kiosk. They were all of me. Me pushing the cart out of the elevator on 3, me wiping down the glass partition on 7, me on my knees emptying a bin on 9. Dozens of them sorted into a rough order, and on the back of each one in pen was a time. 11:40, 12:15, 1:05. He'd been writing down when I reached each floor, building a schedule of me out of the building's own cameras. He'd cloned my badge weeks earlier. That's how my card kept opening doors when I was somewhere else. He was carrying a copy and moving through the building inside the gaps in my route. But here's the part I can't get past. He didn't take anything from that building, not once in all those weeks. There were laptops and petty cash, and 100 things a person could carry out a service door in the dark. He left all of it, every time. He didn't want anything in that building. He just wanted to learn my route. I don't clean nights anymore.